It might not be a mental health concern that's changed. It might be changing homes or cities or levels of independence or grief, all of those things. If it's making a change in me, then probably counseling is something that can help me understand that and get more comfortable with it and move through that change.
Aging can bring wisdom, resilience, and life experience, but it can also bring loneliness and major life changes. For many older adults, asking for help isn't easy, but a Calgary organization is trying to make mental health support more accessible and affordable. At Kindred Connections Society, seniors can access rapid counseling sessions on a pay what you can basis. Counselor Shannon Kandra talked with Unison TV about why more older adults are reaching out for support and why it's never too late to start. But first, she tells her story about why she loves working with older adults.
I think I learn so much working with older adults. Um, I think about sort of just the expansive histories that a lot of these people have. And I have a great respect for that. No matter what the story is, no matter what the origin story or the bumps along the road have been, I just have such a respect for that. I think also, honestly, sort of in a maybe self-centered or self-oriented way, I see people who are ahead of me, and I'm looking to them actually, just as a fellow human, to let me know what it's going to be like and what some of the struggles are that I'm going to have and that I can start to navigate and that I might run into. So those are sort of personal notes. I think in terms of the counseling work, what I really enjoy about working with older adults is probably the aha moment when someone does start to realize that there is a whole other source of hope for their situation, whatever that situation is. Um, when they start to realize that there is a difference that can be made, when they start to realize, again, that they're not alone, um, they can start to think about it differently and start to generate some ways of taking action. That's always so inspiring. Kindred Connections Society is the full name, and we've been working in the community for I want to say 68 years, I think is the right number. Um, Previously, we were called Catholic Family Service. And like a lot of charitable organizations, we were sort of had our inception through a church group or from a church that, um, they used to do a lot of the charity work in the community. And of course, times have changed since then, and so have we. We have sort of two main areas that we work in Kindred. One is around sort of parenting, especially young parents or parents of young children, that area. And then the other one is counseling and sort of general population mental health. So in our sort of parenting programs, we part of what we do there is we have it's actually the marriage of both services. We have the Louise Dean High School for pregnant and parenting teens. So they get the sort of the wraparound of all those services. They get to finish their high school. They have childcare included. There's programming around parenting as well as high school courses. And then they also get mental health support from our counseling side. So that's us in a nutshell.
And is there opportunity for someone to come in on a drop-in basis to Kindred?
Not really. Anybody can come in and talk to our awesome reception staff and get information they would like, or just say hello to somebody. That's our door is open for that. But in terms of, especially in the counseling program in particular, it is a booked program. It's called Rapid Access Counseling, or we call it RAC for short sometimes. And anyone can book that, in person, over the phone, by email, or through our online booking tool and up to 2 hours before the time of the session.
And that's available to any age.
That's available to any age. We work with littles up to unlimited age.
Well, on the subject of more on the unlimited age, what are some common emotional struggles that adults can often carry from childhood into their later years?
I think, as we age, I think what happens is we get an accumulation of a lifespan. And while I'm not an expert on childhood trauma, I know that, as any counselor would, that is something that we can carry with us and can pop back up at any time. And sometimes we don't think of the things that happened to us as traumatic. We actually think that was just life, that was normal. Everybody went through that. And sometimes that's the case. But sometimes we actually might have a slightly skewed perspective of what was normal, or more importantly, what did or didn't hurt us. It doesn't really matter what was normal or what everybody else went through. It's did it impact me or not? And sometimes those impacts don't come out until 10, 20, 60 years later. And that can be a little bit disturbing, a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be off-putting, can be disorienting when something comes up that, you didn't expect that was going to rock the boat.
Do you know of some triggers that might cause something like that?
Really, it can be kind of anything. Again, I'm not sort of an expert on childhood trauma coming up, but I've certainly talked with enough older adults to know that life transitions are one of those. So, if I'm the older adult and something happens to one of my kids or one of my friends, that it rings a bell a little bit for something that happened to me, that can be one of those kinds of things. It can be a big change that's happening to me. It can be a health change or a housing change or just a relationship change. It can also be a realization that the world around me has changed and I don't fit in it quite the way I used to. That can be sort of disruptive enough to sort of bring on a flood of of feelings of, isolation or um, loneliness, even some of those sort of stress responses or trauma responses, like feeling really disoriented, really having memories that come up out of nowhere, or really feeling like avoiding people. That can actually be something that can be worked through in counseling and not just the way I am now.
That's an interesting one you brought up, the feeling of disorientation that the world is going by too fast, and especially now. I mean, we've never lived in a time where changes have been happening so rapidly. Is that something you're hearing from, I guess, more so than before?
Definitely. And that's adults of every age are experiencing that sort of disconnection with the world around us and sort of it's a kind of a new stress that happens. But again, counseling can really help clients think through, talk through, even see things differently and take action on some things that can be adjusted to feel a lot better and a lot more um, at, at a comfort level, more in your own skin in the world we live in.
What are you telling people in terms of, the rapid technological change where anyone, I think, over the age of 40 can feel like very disoriented at various stages in life? Are there different actions you can take or what you're telling people?
I think honestly, the biggest thing in the people that I've talked to, that is helpful for them is just saying, yeah, you're not alone. We're all going through this, and yes, we're all struggling, we're all learning, and it can be done. The learning can be done, and also there's decisions you can make. We don't have to be, um, we don't have to go along with the current all the way, right? We don't have to be carried along with it entirely. We can make choices, and sometimes we have to make choices that, maybe go against the grain a little bit, but even that can be soothed or feel more empowered. I might have to have a smartphone to have the app to make the appointment with my doctor, which is really frustrating. But if I can find ways to make the decision to get the smartphone and get the app that feel better for me and not just irritating.
Yeah, and sometimes when you get beyond that, you can look back at it and go, "Oh, that wasn't that hard." Are you finding that, if just with that slight bit of encouragement, that we can get people over
Well, I'll
that?
tell you what. As a human being in the world, I find that's true. I don't. really actually have a professional reflection on that,
Mm-hmm.
though, as a counselor,
Mm-hmm.
because quite a few of our clients only see us once or twice. So we sometimes don't get to hear the other end of the story. It's always lovely when we do,
Mm-hmm.
but so we don't always get to hear the other end of the story. Our counseling program is a unique one in that we do what we call single session counseling. So clients can have as many sessions as they want, but we always just do something like really bite-sized that we can finish in one go, so that clients really have something that they can walk away feeling really good about. And then they can come back again and take another bite-sized, tackle of something. But because of that, we don't always get the length of the story. We don't always find out how it turned out.
The follow-up of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would most benefit from these bite-size single sessions?
So one of the great things about single session is that it's quite flexible. It can be for someone who's sort of interested in maybe testing out counseling, just dipping their toes in the water. It's very low commitment. It's one session. At least this week, it's one session. You might pick another one later, but you don't have to. So I think it's good for people who want to test out counseling. I think it's good for people who have a realization, either long-standing or new, that they might need to address something that's a bit heavier, a bit bigger, a bit more long-term, but they can't get the service, they can't get the mental health service or the counseling that addresses that right away. So they can come and see us while they're on a wait list, perhaps for another place. It's great for clients who they have some tools in their mental health, mental wellness toolbox, but maybe they're hitting a bump in the road and they're not quite sure if they need a new tool or how to apply their tool to this concern. Um, and it's also good for people who know they need something, but they're not sure what they need. Coming for a single session, one of our counselors can actually usually start to help kind of shape a client's idea about what are the next steps for them.
Yeah, because some people may not have ever gone to counseling and they have really no idea what it's about. Are there some misconceptions that some older adults might have about counseling or therapy?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And again, it's sort of the population in general, we often think it's only me. Like this is not a problem that can be fixed because this is happening. This is a permanent state for me. This is a change that's happened and I'm going to have to live with it. So that's a misconception that a lot of people have. And I would say that in our older clients, we do see a lot of clients who just they feel ashamed that they've reached something that they can't manage. Because they've managed so many things for so long and often for so many other people, that it really is disorienting for them. It's strange for them, and they immediately feel sort of shame and guilt about needing help themselves. And maybe at a time in life when they've already had to ask for help in a few other areas too. So it can be just, I think it can be a hard thing to realize that maybe I need to talk to someone. But honestly, I'm a counselor and counselors go for counseling. And I can say from that perspective, it's like one of those things you might kind of anticipate with some anxiety, but once you get there, it's actually great.
What message would you have for some older adults who believe that they're too old for therapy or for personal growth?
Right, great question. I think that I would encourage them to give it a try. I've seen some very elderly clients who had that sort of very idea come because family members insisted, or another social support, or even a professional support insisted that they try counseling. And they've been, that's how they got there. They wouldn't have come themselves, but once they come, they find it quite helpful.
Or is there some stigma that's still associated with going for counseling?
Sure, there's stigma across the board when it comes to mental wellness and just steps that we all need to take to actually just accept the fact that our physical wellness we kind of are all familiar with, but that we actually need to address mental wellness. We actually need to do some things to maintain mental wellness. And again, for people who have managed, um, for a long time, that seems like a strange idea, or maybe even like a weakness, um, that I might need to take some steps to address my mental wellness. But the fact is, we all, every human being of every age and every socioeconomic status, every human being, we all have a range of mental wellness, mental health that we need to address in order to kind of keep it healthy.
Are there some signs that a person should look for either in themselves or a loved one that would suggest, maybe I should consider this"?
Yeah, I think anybody who feels like, gosh, I wish I had somebody to talk to about this, that would be one. That's an easy one. I often remind clients it's a bit like going to your doctor, and generally I recommend clients go to their doctor first if they notice a change. If there's a change in how I'm doing, right? Something that's noticeable, I'd say go to your doctor first. But then, yeah, definitely counseling can often help with that, even if it's not about what's happening, it's about adjusting to what's happening. You know, it might not be a mental health concern that's changed. It might be changing homes or cities or levels of independence or grief, all of those things. If it's making a change in me, then probably counseling is something that can help me understand that and get more comfortable with it and move through that change. Yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned change, because when you said that, we often think of our 20s or teenage years as times of huge change, but really I can't think now of a greater time of change than in our senior lives, our menopause and further. There's incredible amount of changes that are happening there. Is that something seniors should be aware of? I mean, these are, even though they might be older, they're still going through it for the first time.
exactly. It's funny because yes, the expression sort of a new parent. I realized once I became a parent that there's being a parent to a newborn, which is a first time parent, but every day of my child's life, I'm a new parent to that stage of their life. I've never been there before, and that never stops, of course. Everywhere we go, every day we live, we've never lived that day before, and it's new to us. So there may or may not be those days that come that seem more than we want to tackle on our own.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first day for someone being a grandparent, right? I mean, these are,
Exactly.
it doesn't matter what
Exactly.
stage you are, it's the first time you're there and nobody has all the answers. And
That's right.
sometimes
And
it's,
I think in our day and age of information, that's one of the things that does us a bit of a disservice is that we are exposed to information about a lot of changes. Like people talk more freely these days on the radio and on TV about grief, about menopause, about aging, about medical concerns. And we're exposed to all these things, but we don't actually know what it's like to go through it until we do. And another part of that is there's sort of the initial part of a change that might be coming at us, but then there's after it's settled in for a bit and we realize that this change is sort of a new normal, that can be a new time or another time when it's again kind of distressing, and we can kind of feel, alone or not well equipped to manage, or just despair that this is the new normal and the change has happened and whatever that change might be, and I have to just live with this. I just have to keep calm and carry on. Um, but the truth is, nobody has to do it alone, and we actually can impact our own lives. And sometimes we just need some help knowing how to do that.
that's a great point that, yes, change will always happen, where they say the only consistent is change, but we don't have to do it alone.
That's right.
There's
Yeah,
always a source of help, whether it's, at Kindred or at Unison, there's always somebody, even if you don't have blood relatives or in the community, and even online, there's so much out there. Would you have any thoughts about that, or reaching out to community groups online, or that type of
um,
connection?
I would say always do it with a friend,
Yeah.
and that's coming from my personal place of that sort of fire hose of information.
Mhm.
That it's a lot of information out there, so just always do it with a friend. Get somebody to help you assess, is this something that feels valuable, sort of authentic, authoritative, or does this sound like somebody's opinion? Which sometimes it's nice to hear opinions because that's sort of a social aspect to bumping up against other people who think differently or think the same or have had similar experiences. But that's not the same thing as getting good information about how to address concerns, even if you've had the same experience as someone.
Mm, that's a great point with these, as you said, the fire hose of information that's out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to tell what is real or not, right? And
Yeah.
in terms of the programs that you offer there at Kindred, is there a cost to the one-time counseling sessions?
Yeah. So, rapid access counseling, we have a fee philosophy. It's basically pay what you can. So, a client, visits us by video. We can do it virtually or in person. Client visits us, and one of the parts of our early conversation in the appointment is what do you want to contribute towards the fee? So, it's between 0 and $195 a session, and even $195 a session actually is quite below sort of standard counseling fees in the private sector. Um, but clients just tell us what they can pay that day, and we say, great. So whatever it is works for us. We ask clients to pay a fee that they think is fair and affordable. Um, and I've actually talked clients down from time to time when they describe their situation. They want to contribute. They want to pay $50, but after we've talked for a while, I realize actually that doesn't sound affordable for you. Let's do 5 instead. And 0 is an okay fee too.
What a fascinating program
Yeah.
with that rapid access. And then how many times can a person seek help there?
So unlimited. The majority of our clients, which is sort of consistent with many counseling programs, is most clients only come once. That's true for us. About 70 to 75% of our clients across the board come once, or at least once in a very long time. We have a couple of more who come twice or 3 times. And we do have clients who come 20, 30, 40 times. That's a bit more rare, but the door is open for that as well.
Shannon, this has been such valuable information to know what's out there and specifically at Kindred. And thank you very much for the work you do there and enlightening us to the services that are being offered.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to talk about it. Um, I actually do have a couple of stats if you're interested.
Excellent. Bring them on.
Yeah. So, with our clients over the age of 65, 65 and over, some of the top concerns that clients come to talk to us about are loneliness, relationships, grief and loss, anxiety or anxiety symptoms, and life skills like self-care and communication and those kinds of things. And of course, those can all be a combination, right? They can wrap together. So those are some of the things that especially clients 65 and over come to see us about. And we do ask clients for a little bit of feedback at the end of every session. And 95% of our clients 65 and over say that they now feel more comfortable reaching out for help in the future. So I think that's one of the most important and most valuable services that we actually offer here at Rapid Access Counseling is if someone can get in the door, whether it's literally in the door or virtually by video or phone. Once they've been through our program, once they've had one session with us, they realize that actually it's okay to reach out for help and there is help out there to be had. And another just sort of a high reflection that clients of ours have had, again, especially in the 65 and over age range, is that they've really gained a better understanding of how the relationships in their life are affecting them. Again, kind of that idea of like, it's not just happening to me, it's happening to me in relationship to other things that are going on in my life, other people in my life, and I can impact those things. So those are two sort of um, major areas that our older clients have said rapid access counseling has really helped them with.
That is fantastic information and great to know. I specifically am intrigued about that last one. Can
Mhm.
you give an example of something like that that you might have encountered?
Sure. Sort of an example of increasing your understanding of how the relationships in my life are affecting me.
Exactly, yes.
Sure. So I have to think about this out loud a little bit here, but
Of course.
yeah. Um, I think an example might be understanding how maybe something that I thought of was just a mild irritant in one of my relationships or my living situation or in my community, maybe isn't just a mild irritant. Maybe it actually tells me something about my values. Maybe it actually tells me something about what I need, what I am missing in my life. So that can be an interaction with another person, whether it's a close family member or just somebody I bump into. It can actually be an indication of something that's more important to me, even though I've just seen it as a mild irritant. It can also be something I've lived with for just so long, a really important person in my life that is family and that they always will be family. And it's always been this way, one way, that I've just gotten used to it always being that way. I haven't maybe actually considered how it's impacting me and what some of the choices are that I might have around that relationship, and how I can actually maybe let some sunshine in on it, even though it's been sort of the same way for a long time. So those are maybe two examples of ways that you can increase your understanding of how relationships in your life are impacting you and get a little bit of juice, a little bit of a motivation to maybe address it in a different way, in a way that feels okay.
I love that. And it's just it just shows that we can be empowered and that we
That's right.
don't have to accept things the way they have been going forward.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Thank you very much. This has been fantastic